afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular afternoon meeting of Monday, August the 24th. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming on the District of Summerland YouTube channel, youtube.com, District of Summerland. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. As council chamber remains closed to the public, members of the public are encouraged to register in advance of the meeting to make representations to council electronically. Please contact corporate officer at summerland.ca to be added to the speakers list for the public comment opportunities found under items 6.0, 7.1, or 9.0. Those who have not registered in advance may call 250-404-4052 during the live meeting to be added to the speakers list for items 6, 7.1, and or 9. Are there any late items or amendments to the agenda, Corporate Officer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask Council to change the agenda order to consider item 7.3 as the first business item under the agenda.
Okay, thank you. And that's all then? The one change? Okay. Council, could I have someone bring forward the amended agenda, please? Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Traynor, all in favor? Okay, so that's approved. And then on to adoption of minutes of the Committee of the Whole dated August the 10th and the regular afternoon meeting of the same date. Any changes in that?
Madam Mayor, before Council adopts the regular afternoon minutes of the 10th, there was a recommendation for item number 7.1 that there was a defeated motion that was in the minutes, and we've added the motion that was carried, which is that the request from the property owners of 27410 Garnet Valley Road to have the district install an irrigation water service to this property be approved at a cost of $6,700 to the property owner, with the district to cover the rest of the cost.
Great, thank you. So again, adoption of the minutes as amended, please. Councillor Patton, Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Thank you. And we don't have any delegations this afternoon. So this is the first of 2 public comment opportunities, 15 minutes maximum and 2 minutes maximum per speaker. I understand that Mr. Grant Thompson is on the line. You may begin. Please introduce yourself and give your address for the record, please, Mr. Thompson.
Grant Thompson, never be in favor of discriminatory practice, but in one segment of society acting all the way down. In 2009, all homes of irrigation for the agricultural properties received and installed water meters for free. We did not receive a meter for our irrigation water. This is not our fault. This is probably why it is. February 2010, the Reno Council recognized this oversight and promised that we would get 3 meters as well. We're still waiting. From 2010 to 2015, the district stopped billing us for irrigation water. This is not our fault. This was bungled by district. In August of 2014, a rogue employee circulated letters to over 250 property owners, informing them they would be charged $1,500 per meter or their irrigation would be cut off. This was not authorized by council. The CAO rescinded these letters. This was not our fault. This was bungled by staff. In 2014, due to the district letters, we ceased any further expansion of our gardens on the ALR due to the uncertainty of our water supply. This was due to bungling by district staff. Now in 2020, staff is proposing to issue the same bully letters that were issued in 2014. If the property owners could not afford $1,500 in 2014, how are they supposed to afford these onerous rates of $4,100? This is not our fault. Meters are district-owned infrastructure. The district should install the meters at the district's cost just like any other infrastructure. In over 12 years, there's yet to be any meaningful consultation with property owners. We're still waiting. COVID-19 is not the crutch you can rely on for sidestepping dialogue and transparency. There's no urgency in this issue. It's been around for 12 years. We support water metering. We support consumptive payments, but we can never be in favor of discriminatory practices. We're tired of the bullying, threatening, and the discrimination against one segment of residents. It has to stop now. We ask council to show their support for the ALR. Help us grow local. Help us reduce greenhouse gases by reducing our dependence on truck goods. Demonstrate that you support the principles of fair taxation. Do not accept the staff's choice letter, and let's start entering into a meaningful dialogue with the property owners. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I don't think there's anyone else on the line, is that correct? That's correct, Madam. Thank you. We will move into 7.3 now, so 7.1, the new number, and that's the staff report and discussion on domestic second service update. Over to Chris.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll introduce the topic and then open it up to council to ask any questions. I've got Devin Vandermeer, who's the manager of water utilities, here with me today as well to assist with that. So back in June of 2019, staff brought a recommendation from the Water Advisory Committee to look at second services. And council supported a plan for a graduated process to look at either the removal of the service or the metering of those services. So the intent was to give property owners the opportunity to choose if they wanted to keep their second service, and the direction was, and the recommendation from the Water Advisory Committee was to have the property owners pay for the meters or have the service terminated at the district cost and ultimately have those services removed and no longer used. So in October 2019, staff started that process by issuing an introductory letter to all 240 properties that have a second service to advise them of this and that this process would be going over the next 3 years. The intent was to have an initial choice letter go out to the first group of properties, which were going to be the half acre or less in the fall of 2019. Staff at the time had received some initial questions and comments from approximately 9 individuals and had met with them, discussed with them, answered some of their questions, and was looking to have further internal discussion before this process moved forward. So that in March, with COVID happening and the opportunity to have any group discussions or public consultation, staff delayed that process and is now looking to issue those choice letters that we were initially planning to. But before we did that, we wanted to bring it to council to highlight some of the concerns and questions that were being raised. With this council report, there's obviously been a number of correspondence that have been received from the public on this topic with the draft choice letter attached and the cost of the meters that are included in the report as well. So with that, staff is looking to confirm council's direction of the intent of moving forward with these second services, to have them removed and to have meters installed if the homeowner or property owner chooses to at their cost, before we go ahead with issuing any of these choice letters and moving forward with this process. So if there are any questions, Devin and I will get answered.
Thank you, Chris. Council, questions of staff? Councilor Reynolds?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question, if I may, approximately 240 landowners. How many are in the LR? How many are like zoned agricultural? How many are country residential? The ones where I'm trying to go with this question is the ones in the ELR won't have a hope to ever subdivide that property, but country residential possibly could.
We're just looking to see if we have that breakdown. I don't believe we do. I know initially we looked at properties that had farm status, and the intent and discussion around the Water Advisory Committee table was should those ones with farm status be exempt? And I believe there was only 3 of the properties of those 240 that had farm status.
I just wanted to ask Councillor Van Alphen, we'd like to get that information though. Yes.
I'd like to have that information, if I may, please.
Thank you. Councillor Barco.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Councilor Van Alphen's point, I think the parcel that's under 2 acres doesn't have any restrictions for subdivision. We have a lot of little legacy pieces that were subdivided off of larger lots, like the home footprint and such, that are zoned A1 or A2. But, you know, for all intents and purposes, they're just a residential lot. Maybe sometimes a larger one, if services are ever there, they might be able to subdivide anything else. But it does go to another issue that we talked about. Is what should be the minimum subdivision.
Do you have any questions for staff while you have
No.
forward? Okay. Councillor Holmes.
Yes, thank you. I guess I'm just a little bit confused about where we're at with the process. So my understanding is that we decided to break them down into 3 different groups because each property was so different, and trying to have one blanket thing for all 3 of those different sizes of properties wasn't good enough anyway. So then we decided we do the under half acre properties first and deal with those. So if that's the one we're dealing with now, if you can just clarify where we're at in that process. Have we spoken to those people who have the under half acre properties and get their feedback?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, just to clarify, we looked at breaking them into three groups to spread the workload over 3 years. Assuming there's either going to be a service termination of the property or a hit meter installation. So in order to have enough resources in a given year, that's why we looked at it. It wasn't that we thought there was going to be different circumstances with the different parcel sizes. We understand that there's going to be varying across all of them, but it was mainly just to get a smaller group in one given year to deal with all of the services. As far as the process, we're just looking to send out that choice letter. So other than the initial introductory letter that went out in October of 2019, there hasn't been any global communication or information to these property owners. We are now looking to move into what's stated in that introductory letter, looking at the under half acre parcels now, giving them that choice letter and the costs associated with it, and having them make that decision so that we could schedule the works to follow. So that's what was attached to the report, was the draft choice letter to go out to the half acre and under properties.
Well, just a couple follow-up. Okay, so we're asking them to make a choice without asking them for any feedback.
Yeah, so I guess that's where, with initially this process came to the Water Advisory Committee and then the council for direction on that process. Yeah, there was no intent to ask the groups further on if they agree with this process or not. It was the direction. The direction we were looking in 2019 was do we move forward with this and how, and that was what we had set out. It wasn't to ask any further questions from the public if they agreed with this process or thought there should be an alternative process that was followed.
And then how do we justify this doubling the cost of the
So with the 2019 costs were based on an estimate that was done before we took this to the Water Advisory Committee. So it was approximately April of 2019. And it included the unit rates for all of the different parts, the different laborers, and the different fleet equipment that was going to be required for that installation. So based on that, a recent update to those unit rates, to those fleet unit rate values, to the operator wages were updated, and there was increases across the board in all of the different areas just based on inflation. Some of those we found were based off of numbers in our pit meter estimates that hadn't been updated for a while. And then there was also one that wasn't in the 2019 was some of these properties are going to require asphalt repairs, some may not. But if we're looking to have a fixed flat rate for all of the properties, that's fair, that's consistent. Trying to find an average cost. So the updated estimate has a small portion of asphalt included because there will be some that need that, as well as our standard 15% of the charge that wasn't on the previous estimate that is on this one now. So that's where the total of it for the 4,100 comes from.
Just follow up. So some people would pay more, some people would pay less.
Typically, if we were doing a service or a pit meter installation, we would provide this estimate and say, here's the estimated work, but then they would get billed the actuals. With this process and the administrative workload that would be required with that, the intent is so that they know what their fixed rates are, was to set a standard rate across the board and have each property owner pay the same. And so that's where we're trying to find that balance from an average. And we looked at, in 2019, we also looked at 12 actual installations and had varying costs from approximately $1,500 upwards to $6,000 for a pit meter installation. So depending on the circumstances on a location, there can be varying degrees of work that's going to be required.
Join. This conference will end in 5 minutes. Enter *1 to cancel and continue the conference.
Sorry, if I might add to that, Madam Mayor. So that, as you can see, is part of the difficulty in determining a fixed rate, which we think is the best way to go, so it's fair amongst these people. So we have determined a fixed rate for this year, but then do we continue that rate over the course of the next 3 or 4 years in installing future pit meters as costs go up with labor and materials every year? So that's something that we're trying to figure out, whether that makes the most sense. But like Chris said, it is quite onerous to provide an estimate and then reconcile every single installation, every cost once it's complete.
Thank you. Councilor Holmes, more questions or for now? Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Van Open.
So if I'm a homeowner, landowner under 2 acres, can I hire my own contractor? If I think your price is outrageous, I can hire my own whole operator.
Currently, that's not the practice within the district of Summerland. Any new services are installed by district forces.
Do you have more questions? I have a few that I've written down. A number of them come from the correspondence, and I just want to get verification on some of these statements that were made in the correspondence. The first one, though, is not related to that. It's related to what you have in the staff report. In the second paragraph under background and discussion, it talks about describing the graduated process, which would include engagement of the public. Now, I recognize that we're in COVID now. I suspect, or at least this is what I'm hearing from our public health officer, that we're going to be in COVID for some time yet. But I also know that we have options for public engagement that we have explored since COVID has started. So I would like to have more public engagement. And I wanted to ask if that would be something that would be, you don't need to answer this, but would be considered by staff. I guess that's more of a comment, but I do have a few questions. It was a reference, and I think you made it in the introduction, about farm status and how only 200 out of the 240, only 3 had farm status. It's my understanding that an acreage that's below 2 acres can't get farm status anyways. Is that accurate? You might know, Councillor Van Alphen.
I believe it goes on, if your costs go higher, I believe 10 acres is, or over 5 acres is, $2,400 in gross sales. I believe under 5 acres is $5,000 in gross sales per year. So I would class, probably under 2 would be included in the 5. If you could, if 3 of them have it, then obviously it's doable out there, it can be done.
Councillor Barco?
Yes, I looked those up prior to the meeting, and I'm just trying to find it. Okay, so farm status, if you have less than 1.98 acres, you need to grow $10,000 worth of
Yes,
products to have your
10,000.
farm
Okay.
status. So you can be under 2 acres. And have
Okay.
farm status.
Yeah, I knew that the amount was considerably higher. I was thinking that was under 5, but yeah, that would include the, David?
So just to respond to that, that was part of the discussion in that these residents, if they gain farm status, would pay the irrigation rate. And if at any time, based on staff continuing, to oversee who has farm status and who doesn't, that rate would be adjusted.
And that would be the irrigation, the agriculture irrigation rate rather than domestic. Okay, thank you. One of the people that responded by correspondence was saying that the option to tie into their domestic line below the water meter wasn't possible because there's not enough pressure in the domestic line. Is that an accurate, fair statement?
That's a possibility. I'm not aware of it, but it is definitely difficult for some people to, if they were to disconnect their second service, to then reconnect their irrigation into their domestic line.
Just because of the limitations.
Yeah, sometimes the distance from their home, sometimes the topography. So there's lots of difficulties for many people on that.
Okay. Now you were talking about, Chris was talking about how the costs associated with labor and the units of labor have increased, and perhaps asphalt repairs too. Has the actual cost of the meter increased from 2019 to 2020?
From last year, it has not.
Has not, okay.
It is the new Mach 10 meter that we're currently installing throughout Summerland.
Okay, thank you. And a couple of other questions. In the correspondence, some people were talking about a statement made by the district, and I don't know if this was, current staff or previous staff under another council, that there was an overuse of water at these properties that had a second service. If the water is not being metered, do you know how that determination has been made?
I would say that, I'm not sure where that comment came from, if it did come from district staff, but I would say, as in the letter, the report, sorry, there's a possibility for people to overuse because they're not metered, but because we don't have them metered, we don't have that information. And
so right now, how are people billed for the second service? Is it a flat monthly rate?
Annual.
Oh, it's an annual rate? And do you know, can you tell us how much that is?
We can find here, it's in the Schedule A, item 5, last year's council report. So variable acres under 0.5, $58.58.
That's per arable acre?
No, this is total charge.
For the whole year? Okay, thank you. 58 something for under half an acre.
For half an acre to 1 acre, $149. For 1 acre to 1.5, $245. 1.5 acres to 2 acres, $332. That's it.
Thank you. And then the last question I had, you were mentioning that the estimated cost, or the $4,100 cost to install a pit meter would be, includes a 15% admin charge. Can you tell us more about that? Is that a contingency charge?
No,
or-
so that's a standard admin charge for any service or pit meter installation. So it's included because that's how all of our other services would be covered.
So that's also like in our fees and charges bylaw?
Yes, and it's identified separately on this invoice. Yeah, so it totals approximately $500 on of the 41. So that's looking at installing, I guess, so taking the meter information, putting that into our billings, and dealing with the invoicing of these meters as well for getting the $4,100 payment for the installation.
Okay. So that's over a long term. The administration is charged once,
Yes.
but it's over the life
Well,
of the
it's
meter?
everything else revolved around the installation of that pit meter or service.
Okay. And then, sorry, this is my last question. Again, this is a question that came up in correspondence from folks in Summerland. And the question was, if as the property owner now, you choose a certain route, is there a possibility down the road that another option can be chosen? Or is it, that's what the property owner chose and that's how it is?
Yeah, I think the discussions we've had, once the decision is made, that's how we move forward. I know one of the difficulties that has been mentioned in the past is that if a property currently isn't used for agricultural purposes and the current owner decides to remove the second service, but in the future, a new owner or even the same owner decides that they want to use it for that type of purpose, then is there a possibility to then reinstate it? Just the fact that the land remains available for that future purpose.
Okay, good, thank you. Councilor Van Alphen.
If all these properties have a second service, would it not be more economical than to go blue box? Then it's just a matter of shut off in the fall, turn on in the spring, and they charge, per arable acre or whatever they're going to be using for the water.
Thank you, Councillor. Based on the bylaw, in 2014, I think when the revised bylaw was brought forward, it might have even been in a previous one to that. These properties would be domestic water, they're domestic second service, and they would be charged at a domestic rate. And the intent would be that whether they keep their second service or not, they would be charged domestic rate. Ideally, they would eliminate the domestic service, tie their internal system off of their current domestic service, and have the meter at the property line, which is the pit. But yeah, so to just go ahead and install a blue box on that meter, that is a possibility to put a meter on that, but the intent would be to eliminate one of the two and only have one meter on the property and one service to the property long term to reduce the amount of assets and the amount of infrastructure that we're looking after. and to comply with anything under 2 acres, according to the bylaw, doesn't have the ability to have or be charged for irrigation or agricultural water. It was to try to bring these properties that are out of alignment from the current bylaw into alignment.
Did you get an answer to your question? Okay, thanks. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is, if you alluded to the possibility on these parcels under half acre being overwatered, with a yearly annual rate of $58, and with if overwatering is taking place, is it the rest of the district in regards to the irrigation water that's taking on the burden of paying for the overwatering?
Yeah, I guess in essence, right, if the water is coming through the treated water system, then they're not paying on a per cubic meter charge that every other water user is. So in essence, yeah, that cost is then just absorbed by the rest of the utility and the rest of the water users.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Is there anybody that would like to bring forward a motion, whether it's the one that's in the staff report or something other than that? Yes, of course. Councillor Trainer.
Sorry, I just have one more question. I think Mr. Thompson-Grant said at one point when he was speaking to us that they were told that they didn't have to pay for meters by previous council. Is that true? Do you know?
Yeah, I assume that's true, but I believe he referred to a 2010 council, I believe. So that could be, and we will confirm that that's the case. I know that it's, prior to my involvement, I know that it's been all over the board, and I'm not sure why in certain years things didn't move forward. But I also know it's very difficult for many of these owners to, to either deal with the cost of this installation, much less pay the rates that they may have to pay. So, I do think that there is benefit in having discussions with those people that are directly involved or with the public.
Well, unless there's more questions, let's see. Councillor Van Alphen has his hand up. I'd like to put the motion on the table so we can discuss it. And I'd like to speak to it once we have it on the table. Did you have
a question, Councillor Van Alphen? Okay. If you could please go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to put forward a motion that the council accept the report as an update on the domestic second service project and support staff's release of the choice letters to second service customers under half acre or 0.5 arable acres using the associated 2020 costs.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Patton. Okay, Councillor Buckland.
So, there's a lot of history to this, and not everybody knows it, and maybe not everybody remembers it the same way I do. So I'd like to go through how I remember it. Prior to being elected to council in 2014, a number of people spoke to me and said, why are we not being charged for our second irrigation connection? This is crazy. I want to get on council and do something about that. And and I believe it's true that at one time council thought that they had enough funding to put blue boxes on every irrigation connection, but the money didn't go far enough, so they drew the line, a very logical line at 2 acres. Anything under 2 acres wasn't going to get a box. So then our very first council meeting in 2014, it was on the able to rescind a notice the previous council had sent to all these people saying they were going to be charged a domestic rate per month for this irrigation connection. It was $30 a month or something, and they were quite up in arms about that, and there were 30 or 40 people, and so there was kind of a knee-jerk reaction, and all fees and charges were canceled again. Were kind of, it was a bombshell at our very first meeting. And then in January, but this wasn't right. In January, I introduced a motion that said, well, we should at least charge these people the irrigation rates for their thing. And so there was a prorated irrigation fee initiated, which is similar to, it's $200 an acre for argument's sake, or $150 an acre where you have 10 acres, $1,500. So it's prorated for half an acre, 1 acre, 1.5 acres, 2 acres. And, but the issue remained. And we had a water committee, and they reviewed it. I wasn't on the committee, but I attended the meeting where it was discussed quite at length, and this whole plan of what rates should be and what was equitable was pretty much hashed out. I think you were at that meeting, not there. And then nothing was really done. And then there's another council meeting, another water committee. I wasn't on that committee meeting, but I went anyhow, and it was all gone through by the new water committee. Came up with the recommendations. And the basic question of fairness is I don't know how many thousands of people in Summerland that don't have a second water connection and don't get for $58 all the water that they want to have a beautiful garden, roses and vegetables and such. And the few people that do have a free or $58 for half an acre is practically free connection. So do you want to be equitable to the majority or to this minority who don't sort of appreciate, well, we had a good thing for a while, but it couldn't last forever? That's how I think really should look at it.
Councillor Trainer.
I have a question for Councillor Barkwell. Thank you for that. I don't know if you're finished or here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you remember it the same way?
I do, yeah, that was helpful. When it comes to charging for the meters, do you think that homeowners should have to pay for that?
Well, if it's not an irrigation, the basic principle was that all the irrigation users got irrigation, through boxes. And everybody got 1 meter in their house for free. So these people that have this extra connection, they've had a freebie for a long time. So I throw the question back, can you justify that they should get this extra connection for nothing? And something that nobody else, or lots of other people don't have and would like to have. Nobody could come to us right now and say, I'd like to, get a free water connection because I have a big yard and it's costing me a lot of money. So, but I do, and I'm not quite clear on what our how we're going to handle the genuine people with farm status. I mean, obviously with farm status, if you can meet that threshold, then you should meet the threshold for having a free toolbox. My view.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I concur with Councillor Barco. I was at the second water advisory meeting when we discussed this moving forward, and the inequities that there were there in regards to folks that didn't have the second service and how we should make it right. I believe that they've at $58 a year, they had a great benefit over a lot of our other water users in Summerland. And I don't feel that the district should pay for the second meter for them. They have the option of using the 1 meter within their house, which is tying their irrigation to their domestic now and for watering their properties. And if they do want the second meter, then I believe any costs related to that must be covered by the owner. So, thank you.
Did you have further comment, Councillor? No? Councillor Van Elfen.
See, the devil's advocate all the time, but
back to, you talk about, Councilor Barco mentions, if, how you're gonna, well, if they have a, if they got farm status, that's one thing. Well, then you go back to BC assessment and what's going on now. And I've talked about it many times where a neighbor so-called leases your land and now all of a sudden you have farm status. Same thing could happen here, right? So, again, then we're relying on BC assessment to make the call. This guy's a farmer, this guy's not a farmer. But all it takes is a letter from a neighbor saying, I'm farming his property. And now all of a sudden he has farm status. So how do you get around that? Is this the question? Maybe staff has some recommendations, I don't know.
I guess in those circumstances, they would have to have that second service metered separately. And it would have to, so it would have you'd have the ability to charge them the rate that's applicable whether they had farm status as an agricultural user or didn't as a domestic rate. So that would be the caveat, is that they would need to install a pit meter on that second service and be charged the applicable rate. And I think just from what we've seen, the numbers of only 3 of the 240, we didn't expect there to be too many in that situation. But yeah, that if they have it, that's what they would need to do, or if they intend on getting it, then that's what they would need to do.
Councilor Barco.
Yeah, it sounded like, I liked where Councilor Van Elfen was going with the 2 boxes for genuine farm operations. But it sounded like there's complications with that. It would require a bylaw change and some other, let's say, implications.
Just access to the agricultural water rate. It's not available to properties under 2 acres, under 2 arable acres. That's where the differentiation between arable or agricultural and not.
So we would have to have a change our bylaw to say it includes properties with farm status that have blue ones.
So should be an amendment to ensure that that's clear, yes.
So it's doable. I think that's the one area where there might be a genuine inequity, that if you're, reducing enough to meet that threshold for farm status, and there's always a risk. I mean, you can't eliminate everything, but maybe the assessment people could be pointed to some 2-acre parcel that is all on and say, whether they have farm status. It comes up, it's quite visible. I don't think that's a deterrent from making some accommodation. You have to live with some risk. But that would be perhaps even another report from staff, maybe how to make that accommodation. And I see it for we're doing the easy ones now, 1/2 acres and less. There's not going to be many. But when we get into the 1.5 acres to 2 acres, there's going to be far more people that say they use it for farming. So that's down the road, so maybe there's time to have a staff report and proposed bylaw amendment and accommodate those people with blue boxes.
I have a question, Chris. The 3 that you're speaking of that have farm status out of the 240, that is for all second service regardless of size of the arable acres, right? We're not talking about just under 1/2 acre.
Correct, that's total.
That's total. Yeah.
Sorry, just looking at the bylaw, I think it's actually, there probably isn't an amendment that needs to be added or changed to make that access to agricultural water in there. The current definition for ag water means with arable area more than 2 acres or a property classified as Class 9 farm status. So it's already there to capture both scenarios.
Okay, any other comments? Councillor Holmes.
I guess the problem I have is the price tag shock from last year to this year.
I don't see how, I just don't see how, if that 2,300 was out there a year ago, how we can all of a sudden come back a year later and say, oh, no, sorry, it's double. I just don't see how we can do that. We, you know, if it was a business, we find that unacceptable. That's, to me, I just think, what, I just look back and I say, no, you can't have a price like that. You've got to find ways to make it cheaper for people to install.
Councillor Barco.
Question for Councillor Holmes. Do you think it would be more equitable if people were charged the actual cost of their particular location? And you know, somebody can make a call from there, you know, I'm on a little piece of land and it's going to be simple and the connection is already beyond the pavement at the edge of the road allowance, and for me it's going to be somebody else. You know, like me under the pavement, it's going to cost more. Would that be equitable?
Maybe, because I know when, so this was probably back in 2010 or whatever, when this was first being addressed, and a lot of people who did have second service weren't even given a choice. They were just shut off and they were reconnected. They were just connected to the main, including one of my neighbors that happened to, and they weren't even given a choice of whether they could keep their second service or not. It was very easy for the city because their second service was right on the street. It was very easy to switch off, so they just came and switched them off. So, so maybe some properties where it was more difficult for them to switch it off, those are the ones that we're dealing with right now. So I don't know. So to answer your question, maybe but it's really hard to be. Yeah, I don't know.
Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like, you know, it's unfortunate we're where we are today with COVID and what have you, but, you know, is there a need for a public forum on this? Like, these 240 people, do they want, you know, how much feedback have we had, or how much do you expect we're going to get? You know, I mean, it's too bad we couldn't have a open house where these people come and express their concerns or their support, or, you know, what have you. But, you know, just unfortunate with COVID, and it's not like it's something we haven't been discussing for a long time. Is it something that we need to start on tomorrow? That's what I think.
Councillor Barco.
Yeah, I think Councillor Van Alphen said this at the end of what I was going to raise, is that it's been 10 years. They've had numerous letters. They've known that something's going to happen sooner or later. And Councillor Holmes raises a point of equity that I'd forgotten to mention, that some people, had already lost their second service, but not even had the pleasure of another 10 years of usage for, you know, 5 of it for free, like other people, the current people that have it. So is it fair to them that their service is gone, never to be returned? There's lots of inequities here, so you can only do the thing that, you know, goes towards the larger picture. And I've read all these letters, and nothing in there mentions how it's fair to the rest of the community that they should get this particular benefit.
Councillor Trainer.
I agree with Councillor Holmes. It is kind of hard to understand the big price jump between each year, between 2019 and 2020. I'm just wondering, because one of the concerns was, would homeowners be able to afford to pay for a second pit meter? And I'm just wondering, is this something that they would have to pay for all at once, or is it something that they could pay for over several years? How does that work?
The intent when it was brought forward would be like a standard service installation, which would be paid up front and then installed after. I'm not sure, I'm sure we can look in, I'm not sure if there's any legislative restrictions around doing that, but I'm sure we could look into it to see if there was a pay over 5 years or 10 years option that might be available. Because one thing we don't really know either is how many of these properties are wanting to keep their service and are wanting to, would even consider having the pit meter installed, whether they paid for it or not. Some might just be looking to abandon it, but we don't know those numbers either. So they haven't been asked, or there's never gone to that detail or that level yet.
Okay, but that could be an option that we can look at once we have more information.
It could be explored, yeah. It could be spread over a number of years. Like I said, there may be, I'm not aware of, but there may be legislative restrictions that may or may not allow that. But
okay.
That's done with local service areas where we look at extending sewer. It's options of spreading it over a number of years or a lump sum all up front.
Okay, I'm just trying to look at ways that we can all reach the same goal together, but that doesn't, dump a huge bill on a homeowner at once.
Yes, Devin.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I think what would make sense though is we make those determinations prior to sending this choice letter out, so customers know exactly what their options are. Because that may very well, their decisions would likely change due to the total cost of the pit meter and whether they can pay it over time.
Just before I go to Councillor Barkwell and Councillor Holmes, just a question for staff. I know that Dave isn't here. And this kind of question came up when Chris was talking about the legislative piece, of perhaps doing it this way. Is there a way to add a certain amount, because this is per property, to add a parcel tax over on those specific properties over a number of years if they choose to go with the pit meter installation? Is that something that can be done? I'm not sure if that's a possibility to spread that cost out that way.
Madam Mayor, I'd have to look into it a little bit more, but what we're talking about is potentially a local area service, which Chris mentioned. And to do that, you would need a set group of people to petition or to agree to this service going in, and then you would finance it over several years. So with it being a discretionary benefit and not knowing who might be interested or not interested, I think we'd have to do a little bit more investigation on how that could work. It's not something that it's not a tool that's necessarily out there for this type of situation.
Okay, thank you. No, I agree with Councillor Traynor. A number of people, well, at least a couple of people anyway, said that having the cost spread out over a period of time, especially those that are on a fixed income, would be something that would be much more palatable. Councillor Barkwell and then Councillor Holmes.
I was just going to point out that a pit meter isn't necessarily necessary for everybody. They can just tie into the current domestic system that they have, and they might have to really, make sure their zones are well staggered, because they might have a older house with only a half-inch line, but lots of things are possible. That are not the full $4,100.
Yeah, and I think that's where Devin was coming from, getting the information on who's looking at which option and going from there. Chris, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, just I guess with that, our intent was to have a pit meter installed on property for these situations to ensure that any water used on the property was metered. If they do have the ability to tie in after their existing domestic service in their house,
that could be considered, but we would need to have some sort of confirmation process or some sort of check to ensure that it was in fact installed after that meter and is going to be continued to use, and that there was no connections between the property line before the meter that were installed. And that's always a risk ongoing that there could be in the future. So there would need to be that consideration as well.
Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, thanks. I do like the idea of something like parcel tax or something that could get deducted over X number of years on their water bills. Because having a second service, it would be quite a selling feature, I think, for any property. It could potentially be. And so if you're able to pass that, pass that cost on to the new owner, and, the remaining cost, there could be a benefit certainly there for both the buyer and the seller. I also wanted to put something else there out if we're prepared to pay $1,100 to remove a second service, then why wouldn't we deduct that amount from the cost to install it if we're prepared to pay that amount anyway?
Question you want us to answer?
Yeah, that's not.
No, but I guess I don't disagree, but I can also say that $1,100 is the amount in the water bylaw. We can't do it for that cost. Currently, the bylaw needs to be updated again for that cost.
So it's more.
So it's more. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So if it's more, then it's even, but we're prepared to swallow that cost. So I'm saying we're prepared to swallow that cost, 1,100 plus what you say, it's actually more than 1,100. So, but we're not prepared to pass that on if we're installing a bit meter. There's people understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Councillor Buckle?
All right. Yeah, it just wasn't clear. Mr. Vanderbilt said something about this cost of removal is in the bylaw.
Right. Yeah, it's in the water bylaw under the fee schedule. There's a flat rate in there for 3/4 inch, 1 inch, and 2 inch services for water service removal. But just one comment though, like on these properties, like I said, the intent is to have them utilize one of the two services. So ideally their existing domestic service, abandon their second service and have a pit meter installed on the initial domestic and any modifications done on site. So we're already in a lot of circumstances looking to already eat the cost and do the termination of the second service and then install the pit meter on the other service. You're correct in if they're keeping both, there would be a savings of not doing that termination. But that wouldn't be in every scenario.
Okay, so any further discussion on the motion that's on the floor? If you're not happy with the motion that's on the floor, we can vote in that direction. Councillor Holmes.
Just how would we move forward on this parcel tax on here?
Oh, go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, through the chair, Madam Mayor, I think we would need to investigate our ability to do that parcel tax because typically with you can have a proactive, I guess, petition where the property owners come forward with a request to phase it in over certain years. Again, you need a majority to support that. The other way is a reverse petition where the district goes out, and then you'll need 50% of the parcel owners, and then you've got the assessed value that will contribute to that as well. And then chances of that potentially being approved may not be supported, and then what happens after that. So there's some logistics around that we certainly need to investigate. And first of all, I think would be the ability for this type of service to be accommodated under that type of bylaw. So I think we need to do some investigation if that's something council wants to look at as an option for this project.
So perhaps, as Councillor Barkle was suggesting a bit ago, we should maybe get some more information from another staff report. I know that I feel the same way that Councillor Van Alphen feels in terms of the community engagement piece. But we need more answers for, not only for ourselves, but for the 240 property owners on which direction we might go and which options there are available, how they're going to be paying for it, all of that needs to that information needs to be gathered, I think, before we could have a community engagement session or information session of some sort. I don't mean to put words into your mouth, but that's the gist of what I was understanding. Councillor Van Alphen.
That's a very fair statement, Madam Mayor. And it just goes back to, again, like we're the only community in the South Okanagan that has agricultural water meters. Do they have this problem in Edgington, Ogie Falls, Oliver, Soyuz? No, you don't hear about it. But, because we have the ag meters, then, so the second service is a bad thing, and how are we gonna rectify this? And I don't disagree with Councilor Barkwell, fairness. Why do some have it, some don't? Why have some been cut off already and some haven't? But it goes back to the whole thing about the meters. They haven't, other communities don't have them. And they're farming communities also in Oliver and Cities and what have you. And here we're supposed to be a big agricultural community, and the way our world is going, you'd think with 2 acres and under, it's an ideal situation where you can grow food for your family and on it goes. But it's just a philosophical argument. I can go on and on with this, but I don't disagree that everybody should have to pay their fair share, but I just don't know how you go about this. I think, unfortunately, they were missed out back in the day. When meters were installed on ag, somehow these people got missed, or, when domestic meters were installed, they got missed. Somewhere along the line, someone dropped the ball. And, now all of a sudden, from 2019 of X amount of dollars to 2020, it doubled. If we want to have some public consultation and maybe it gets to 2021, it doubles again. I don't know. It's a tough call, but I'd sure like to hear more, what the options are and what people want to do. Like you say, I like the part of parcel tax, if that's a tool that can be utilized.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also thinking that if we're nearing the end of the irrigation season anyways, and it's, I think, middle of April or so that it gets started again, that might be, I know that there's other things to consider, but there is several months of a window of opportunity to have this discussion. So I don't know. Okay, so we have the motion on the floor and it's been seconded. So if there's, you have another question or something to say?
I guess we have to vote on this one first. But can we ask for more information on convenient options then?
Well, absolutely, but we have this motion on the floor, so we'll vote on this first.
Okay.
And then you're welcome to bring forward another motion afterwards. Okay, Councillor Holmes.
Yeah. I think we do need to keep moving on this. We're dealing with the under the half acre parcels right now. I think I would be able to support this motion if it was that 2019 cost, but I don't think I can support it at this costing. And then I think for the larger properties, we can look at some of those other options, but I think we really need to start making some decisions on this and getting this issue behind us. So I won't support this motion, but I would if it was the 2019 cost.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I still feel we're talking about 150 properties, not the 240. The 150 properties are the ones we're talking about that are under the half acre. And I think that no matter how we want to view it, the rest of the community is subsidizing and have been subsidizing for at least 10 years. And I agree with Councillor Barklow that at one point, these folks must have known that this was coming to an end. And of course, now it's coming to an end. And now we're going to have a lot of pushback saying, well, this is how it's always been. Just because it's how it's been doesn't mean that it was right from the get-go. And I do believe that the way it was written, and now is there something in regards to the costs? Absolutely. And I'm sure that our Director of Public Works can fine-tune the costs a little bit. Maybe the 15% administration fee is a little bit on the high side, right? But that's up to, to Chris to decide in regards to a cost. But I do think that it's been 10 years. I think there's been conversation around this, and I think we're just stalling the inevitable. And I think we just have to rip the Band-Aid off and move forward. Thank you.
Councillor Barklow.
Yes, well said, Councillor Patton. But I do support the idea of investigating parcel tax or something, because people who choose to have this second connection, as Councillor Holmes said, it really is incremental to the value of their properties. And there's no way that the district should be paying for additional value to a homeowner. That's at their discretion. And all good things got to come to an end. And I think that on the balance, and it's only a balance, the balance is that we should deal with this after 10 years of flip-flopping and deferring and studying and committees that we've all had. So I look forward to a motion from Councillor Traynor to investigate this parcel tax and maybe assist with payment, but I will support this current motion that's in the agenda.
Okay, so that segues nicely. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? So that is, oh no, yeah, that's defeated because it's half and half, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So that motion is defeated. Would anyone like Councillor Traynor or Councillor Holmes?
I'll just put this out there, see if it was any traction or not, but the council accepts this report as an update on the domestic second service project and support staff's release of the choice letters to second service customers under half an airable acre using the associated 2019 costs.
And then any consideration for the payment of those costs? Okay. What would you think, Karen? Should it all be one motion, or to have an and that?
It's council's pleasure, Madam Mayor, but the mover's pleasure.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for Councillor Holmes? Councillor Traynor, are you seconding?
Just so I can ask Councillor questions.
Okay.
About that. So my concern with that then is if the cost has gone up, then who needs that extra?
But the costs haven't really gone up. We just need to include all those other costs last year. but we told people what it was last year. And now we're telling them, oh, we forgot all these other expenses, and all these other things. We forgot about the after road, we forgot about the admin fee, we forgot about this and that. And so we're gonna add them all on this year.
No, I understand that, and I agree with you. It's not fair to tell people one price and then give them another one, but at the same time, if those costs are still there, regardless of what anybody says, someone still has to pay them. So that's my only thought on that.
Councillor Barkle and then Councillor Pat.
Councillor Holmes' motion is very appealing if it brought some sort of finality to this particular issue from that point of view, but I don't like it from the concept of subsidizing the additional value that these services bring to the homeowner. I think if there's a genuine additional value for that second service, and that the district should pay a portion of that, bringing that value to that homeowner. So I can't support it, but I wish I could.
All right. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm coming from a different angle. I agree with Councillor Holmes that maybe the $4,100 is a little steep. What I would like to propose is that if we were to take out the 15% administration fee, we'd bring it down to about $3,400 in change, which might be a little bit more palatable, which may cover some costs where the rest of the community is not boring the installations of those computers. Thank you.
Just 1 second. Councillor Holmes, will you accept a friendly amendment? No, already? That's your choice. You have the right to choose that. Councillor Barkle.
Yes, when I think if this motion is defeated, and if Councillor Patton chooses to put that forward, that motion, I'll second it. My reasoning being that estimates are merely estimates, and that's within the bounds of what it may or may not actually be, and I can live with that.
Okay. Any further comment or discussion before the vote is called? All in favor? Opposed? That one is defeated as well. Okay. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would choose to take Councillor Holmes' motion, but change the $2,300 to, I believe it's $3,415 is what the 15% less.
Is that, no, I see some shaking of heads in staff.
Sorry, I think you took 15% off of the total.
Yes.
So that 15% was added to the subtotal. So the admin cost is just over $500. It's $507.95. So the total would be approximately $3,600 if you were to remove the admin.
We could. I would like to change the number to $3,500.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Councillor Vanel.
Would you, I can't say that. Would you, a friendly amendment that we, and also that we investigate the possibility of a payment type plan, a parcel tax levy per property owner if that's what they choose. So your 3,500 plus, we will investigate the option of a parcel tax to pay this over a time period to be determined. Do we add that to the motion?
Are you open to that?
Absolutely, if legislation allows, and if we can, then by all means.
Okay. Seconder?
No, I'll second that
Yes.
amendment. which you have to vote on separately. It didn't need to be an amendment.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah.
But then that makes you more comfortable with the first one, so that's okay.
Okay, so we will first vote on the amendment, and then we will vote, and we'll have more discussion, of course. Then we will vote on the motion as amended. So is there any discussion on the amended portion? All right, I will call a question then. On the amendment, all those in favor? Okay. And any opposed? That's unanimous, so that's good sign. And now, is there any further discussion on the amendment, or sorry, on the motion as amended? Okay, I'll call the question on this. All in favor? There we go. And none opposed, so that's carried unanimously. Thank you, Council. Well done, Councillor Patton. All right, so we will move from 7.1 on to 7.2, 2019 annual report. And this is being presented by our corporate officer, Karen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. As part of the reporting requirements under the Community Charter, the 2019 annual report for the District of Summerland has been prepared and provided to the public through notice in the Summerland Review and by being posted to the district website. The annual report is on today's council agenda with a public comment opportunity before council is asked to receive the report as written. At this time, we have had no questions or comments submitted from the public, and there have been no requests to speak to this item on the agenda. And that concludes my report.
Okay. Staff, any questions about the annual report? Oh, sorry, question, what did I say? Oh, no, sorry. Well, staff may have questions, but I'm asking council. Councillor Holmes. Didn't even realize I said that. I don't see any, oh, yes, Councillor Holmes.
Just a couple little things. In the listings of the council committees, there, I see the Heritage Advisory Commission is listed as, when, I don't remember when they wrapped up. I thought it was prior to 2019, but was it last year? Do you remember, Councilor Park?
I don't remember exactly when. I would say about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, so maybe early.
I was wondering why they didn't exist last year. But, then I also wanted to ask about, so I noticed the RCMP is in there, which is great. But their section, it's pretty much just kind of out of a brochure sort of thing. And it doesn't provide the same information that all our other departments provide, stats and whatnot. And I'm just wondering in the future if they would be able to provide something of substance to our annual report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I noticed the last few years it has been fairly slim on those types of statistics, et cetera. But I think since council has recently asked the RCMP to visit regularly and collect those statistics, I'm sure we can include those for 2020, absolutely.
Anyone else? Okay, could I have someone bring forward receiving this for information, please? Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Great, thank you. On to 7.3, and this again is going to our corporate officers, this time open meetings and public participation in them.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report is seeking council direction for the continuation of council meetings with the use of various technologies for the District of Summerland that we have put in place since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. I wanted to start by acknowledging that during the past month, the live streaming and the audio recordings of council meetings have been of poor quality, and we certainly appreciate the patience of both council and residents as we work to improve. Today, you will notice a few changes, both in-house and contracted, to begin improving the quality of our video and audio for public accessibility. The video recording equipment for live streaming with a directional microphone are intended to sharpen both the audio and the visual for viewing and recording. Conference phone speakers are going to replace the single source phone speaker for better online communication, and this is still a work in progress, Madam Mayor and Council. No pressure on Roland, Brad, and Brandon. So today we are looking ahead to the end of December to plan how we're going to proceed with the meetings of Council in order to ensure public access and online participation. At the July 20th meeting, Council determined by resolution that meetings of Council during July and August would be held in Council chamber with written and online participation for members of the public. Municipal Hall currently remains open to the public during limited hours from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The public washrooms remain closed and staff continue to encourage online electronic meetings. The recommendation of staff in the report is to continue the afternoon meetings with the enhanced live recording and online public access that has been put in place today. Should Council choose the opportunity to use the Zoom platform with live streaming, recording, and online participation for the evening meetings as a cost-effective balance, either as a standing practice until the end of 2020 or as an option for consideration on an as-needed basis. During the last quarter of 2020, staff would also like to have the opportunity to investigate upgrades to the technology in Council chambers so that the live streaming online participation can be effectively incorporated as part of our regular meetings of Council now and into the future. In closing, Madam Mayor, there are several options in the report for Council consideration, and I would be happy to answer any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Holmes.
Yes, just thank you. I'm just wondering if sometimes we have a pretty light agenda in the meeting. I think last time it was a one item. So is it possible to just have one afternoon meeting if there's not a whole lot of development? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if we can plan ahead for the notification to the public, then absolutely we can consider that. And I think based on development practices, usually we do know well in advance. So that's something, as long as we notify the public of the time and place of the meeting in advance, that is something we could do.
Any other questions? Okay, we have 4 motions there. If anyone would like to bring those forward as a group, I think that would work. Councillor Van Elfen.
As presented in the agenda, Madam Mayor. Bring it forward.
Thank you. Could you read them, please?
Oh.
That's what the look was.
Thanks. That the report from the Director of Corporate Service Open Meetings Public Participation dated August 24th, 2020 be received for information. That the regular afternoon meeting of Council continue to be held in Council with online public participation through to December 2020, and that the public hearing and the regular evening Council meeting be conducted electronically using the Zoom platform with the online public participation through to December 2020. That staff report back to a future regular meeting of Council with a proposed Council chamber technology update, including associated budget implications.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Holmes? I just have one question about the wording. Through to December 2020, that means the 31st?
Correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barkle, and then Councillor Holmes.
Just for clarification on because of the wording section. So the proposal in the agenda that Mr. Councillor Van Elfen just read is option 3, or I mean, are still going to have the council meetings. They will be available on Zoom for people but we're not on Zoom, we're
No,
here.
actually, so the recommendation, the way it's written, is that the afternoon meetings of council continue to be in council chamber for council and online public participation. The third recommendation is that the public hearings and regular evening meetings be actually conducted by Zoom platform. So that would mean council not in council chambers, but on the Zoom platform as we have done previously for public participation and also council.
See, that's the part that I wasn't sure about, which I think I would rather be here and all of you for everything.
Well, this is the time to discuss it. You've got it on the floor now, so. You're good for now, Councillor Buckle?
Yeah, I'd like to hear what
Yes.
comes up.
Councillor Trainer?
Sorry, what was the logic again for having the evening meeting done by Zoom?
The Zoom platform is something that we can utilize with existing technology. So we know that all of us can sign in. We know that the public can participate. We can live stream it. The only difference would be the cost. And that would mean that we would have to bring in the video camera for the evenings because we can't use the Zoom platform when we're all in the same room. So unfortunately, we get all the feedback going from there. So that was the reason.
So it's to save money?
It's simply to save the cost of the video recording. Yes.
Okay, so if we did choose to meet here for 6 and did the same thing we did in the afternoon, we would just be paying extra staff time, I guess?
There would be no additional staff time from the normal, so we always have staff here in the evening, but it would be the cost of having the professional video working right now. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Councillor Holmes and then Van Alphen.
I think we need to recognize our existing technology isn't up to the job. I don't think it was really up to the job pre-COVID, and it certainly isn't up to the job currently. And I think this is a good solution without breaking the bank, and an opportunity to upgrade our technology, which I think we probably would do even without the pandemic. And this is so I understand it could take to December to upgrade that technology, but certainly the objective should be for all of us to be here. And if there's an opportunity, if there's a light evening agenda to do everything in the afternoon, then we can do that. But I certainly support the idea that we're looking for a permanent solution, and we're not just putting something in place to tie us over until the pandemic is over. So we're taking the same approach on RUS to upgrade the existing boardroom there. So I think we should take advantage of this opportunity to use our audiovisual capabilities in the chamber.
Councillor Van Alphen.
So just let me get this straight, then the public hearing, the third paragraph, then the public hearings and regular evening meetings of council will be conducted electronically using Zoom platforms. So that means we're not here, we're at home. I don't like that. I agree with upgrading our technology, absolutely, because this has been going on forever. And we need to, invest in that area, but the Zoom meetings at home type concept to me was way too distracting. I found personally, we're able to do social distance here fairly adequately when it's just council and a few staff. It seemed to have worked well for me, but I'm only speaking for myself. Thank you.
Would it be a consideration to look at 1, 2, and 4, and then to have 3 separate?
Madam Mayor, you could do that, or you could make an amendment to the motion.
That's easy. Okay. Councillor Barclay, you think you had your hand up a minute ago?
I just wasn't clear. I mean, I was listening to Councillor Holmes and all the wise things he had to say. But I didn't really get out of that where he stood on this issue of evening meetings by Zoom versus in person.
I agree. I'd much rather meet in person. I think we get much more out of it. But if nobody can hear what we're saying, if nobody can participate in those meetings, if they don't know what, if they can't follow our conversation, and that's the case now, then we're not serving the community. We're not doing anybody any favors. We're just making it easier for ourselves, better for ourselves. But we're not helping the people who are trying to actually watch us and hear what we're saying. Because the people who tune in can only hear, hopefully this today will be much better. But today, what we're doing today is offensive. So you know, and so when people watch us, you know, they can only hear the whoever's presenting to us, you know, who are zooming in and making phone calls. They can't actually hear us. That's been the case in the last few weeks, or last few weeks. So I'm not happy sitting at home on Zoom too, but I think we have to think, well, this is a temporary thing. We just got to get through it until we get the technology upgrade in place. And you know, if we could do that, if we get that done before December, that might have budget implications. I don't know. But if we you know, great. But I just think that who's the most important people here is the people in Paris, so us.
Okay, Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was following the same lines as Councillor Van Elton, but Councillor Holmes actually just changed my mind. So even though I did not enjoy our Zoom council meeting one little bit, but I do, for the greater good, it probably would be more advantageous for us to do the evening ones by Zoom.
Okay, Councillor Holmes.
I could put another idea of why don't we just do one meeting until December? Why don't we just say we're going to have one afternoon meeting and do it all? And it might be a really long meeting. It might be breaks, but you know, that might be another option.
I think if we're going to do that, it probably should be an evening meeting, right? So that any development items people can speak to. I mean, I know that, you know, not everybody is working. Lots of folks are retired, not Councillor Patton anymore. But that's kind of the understanding that I've received from Mr. Haddad and Karen. But I think that's, you know, sounds to me like that might be a possibility, and then have the videographer in the evening meeting, if that's what you're suggesting, Councillor Holmes, instead of the afternoon.
I guess
one?
so. We don't have any costs, so we don't really know the costs.
Karen,
The costs actually are $350 for the 4 hours and then $750 for the day. So it's a $400 difference per meeting, or per meeting day, I should say.
good. Okay, Councillor Barkle.
I was going to suggest something similar, perhaps for the items that require public participation. We save them up once a month, and we have whatever length of meeting it takes, but we can, you know, make that only those things, and then have our afternoon meeting like this, which I understand people can see our discussion, hear our discussion well enough. It's just when we have other people who want to participate is where we have the problem, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so that requires a more expensive solution, but it's not, maybe it's just a price we have to pay for this to do it nicely and do it at less frequent time, and that's the price, sacrificing a little bit of a delay perhaps for some development items. Does that grab anybody?
What are the are there any notification issues with that?
Madam Mayor, we could cancel a certain meeting. Absolutely. We did that at the beginning of COVID. We canceled the afternoon meetings for a period of time. So we can do that as long as we notify the public. And then certainly for, it may impact development. Currently we're meeting every 2 weeks, so it would be potentially just once a month. So that would be an impact to that community potentially.
Councillor Van Elfen and then Councillor Trainer.
Technology's not my friend. Well, be honest with that, but can we not do Zoom here? Now, I understand there's a feedback issue, but if we had Zoom on and Councillor Holmes was speaking, everyone else is muted in the room, the people that are important in the district could hear Councillor Holmes. Now, when he's finished speaking, Madam Mayor asks Councillor Trainer for her rebuttal. Everybody else is muted and she's online. Could that work? I don't know. If it's not a sledgehammer, I don't know how to fix it, so I don't know.
Madam Mayor, we did do that one meeting, I believe, and it did work with turning all of the computers off. We may want to look at a second computer for each of the councillors, because I know that was one concern, is having the Zoom on and then
The agenda.
And the
Yes.
agenda, yeah. But absolutely, we could look at doing that.
Councillor Barkle. Oh, sorry, Councillor Trainer and then Councillor Barkle.
The first thing we need to fix is we all need to speak into the microphone. I think if you did that, instead of back here, that would fix a lot of the problems. So I think that we should try to keep this as simple as possible. Because we have like 5 months until December, so could we not go back to, I think 1 meeting a day would be good, like we used to have before, and then just have an evening meeting. I mean, I don't know if that solves the issue of people being able to hear us, but hopefully we're improving. I mean, I don't know how today's meeting sounds, but maybe today's meeting sounds a little bit better. So yeah, I don't know. I think that we should have 1 meeting every 2 weeks in person, and I don't really want to put the development stuff to 1 meeting a month because it's already slow enough. So I would suggest we keep moving that along every 2 weeks. So that's my suggestion. 1 meeting every 2 weeks at night.
In person.
And we speak into the mics.
In person.
In person, yes.
Yes. With it video.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm not going to speak to that. Councillor Barkle.
I think that Councillor Van Alphen has demonstrated his technological brilliance and had a solution for us. I think I'll vote for any of those options other than Zoom meetings. I don't want to have Zoom meetings.
Okay, Councillor Holmes.
I remember when we did have the Zoom here and we did that, I got complaints from people not being able to hear. I've had complaints ever since the pandemic started about not being able to hear anything we have to say, except when we're on Zoom. That's the only time people can actually hear what we're saying. My worry about having 1 meeting in the evening is, I mean, here we are, we're an hour and 40 minutes into our meeting, and we're on what, the 3rd topic, 2nd topic, so if we're starting at 1 meeting at 6 o'clock, unless we're prepared to have a late night, then I don't know if we have enough time to get everything done.
Councillor Van Alphen.
Let me bring the mic up closer. How long would it take staff to come back with a report? How quickly, like how difficult is it to hang some cameras and some microphones and whatever you do to improve this? Like, just curious. I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but how long does it take and how much does it cost and how quick can we get an audio company to say, boom, it's done?
Council, we have reached out to a few companies, just some local and some that work a lot with municipalities. So depending on their schedules, it could be a high priority and within a month or two potentially.
Can you survive another month or two of Zoom? Councillor Barkle? Maybe? Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we were to look at the end of December, and if the cost would be an additional $400 a day for the videographer, we'd be looking at what, $3,200 to run us through to the end of the year. And that way we could continue doing our Monday afternoons and our evening meetings for $3,000. I think that it's a well use of dollars to be able to continue the way that we're going right now. Maybe there's other ways that we can cut $3,000 to cut for what we can put into.
I think, are you suggesting the videographer here afternoon and evening?
Yes, because
And I think it's
we're doing
$750,
a day.
isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Instead of $350. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's $400 more per day. So if we went
Right, but
till the
that,
end of the year, we're only doing it twice a month, so that's $800 over September, October, November, December. 4 months is $3,200.
$3,200 on top of what we already paid.
But over top of the $350 that
Yes.
we're already paying.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe we should watch this show.
Thanks. I have Councillor Van Alphen. Are you finished with your comments?
Yes, I am. Thank you
Okay,
so much.
thank you. Councillor Van Alphen and then Councillor Barkle.
Before we go to Councillor Holmes' suggestion of one meeting a week, one meeting every 2 weeks. Do an afternoon meeting starting at 1 o'clock and run till it's finished and receive that extra evening cost. Possibly.
So just one comment, Madam Mayor. I know that we, the 4 hours is kind of the time limit for the cost. So anything over 4 hours is considered full day.
So then we just ask Councillor Barkle not to talk as much.
And speaking of that, it's your turn, Councillor Barkle.
I was going to say that Councillor Patton's point, it may not even be a full $3,200 if we can come up with a more permanent solution there, between now and December. So I think it depends a lot on what staff see is on the agenda and how frequent our meetings should be to make them a reasonable length. But I'm willing to pay a little bit more to keep this democratic process going.
So then the suggestion then, if I'm understanding you correctly, is only for item 3 to do the meeting as we're doing this afternoon meeting. That's what you're suggesting, Councillor Barkle?
Well, when you say item 3, do you mean option 3 or?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Well, not option 3, but item 3 under the motion that's currently on the floor.
Public hearings and evening meetings of council be conducted electronically. So I would, that's the part that I.
So you would suggest having them in person and with the videographer here?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to make that friendly amendment?
Well, I was going to vote to defeat this motion and then put a new one on, but either way.
Oh, okay.
I'll make the motion that the evening meetings be conducted the same as the afternoon meetings.
And public hearings?
Yeah, and which contain
Yes.
public hearings.
Yes. Councillor Van Alphen, you're okay with that friendly amendment? Okay, so let's vote on the friendly amendment. Could you read it out for us again, please, Karen?
Certainly. that public hearings of the regular evening meetings of council be held in council chamber with online public participation through to December 2020.
Thank you. Okay, so let's vote on the amendment, and that's just for this item 3. All in favor? And none opposed? Okay, that's good. And then any further discussion on the entire motion as amended? I'll call the question. All in
We have
favor?
a question.
Oh, okay.
So will the video of the meetings, when we do it this way, be as good as it was for the July 13th meeting? That was pretty good.
Yes, and actually, I think the CAO had just looked and there was no delay on the stream so far today, so hopefully that demonstrates a little bit of improvement right away.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Okay, good to vote now? So on the amended resolution, all in favor? And I don't see any opposed. Thank you. Okay, on to item 8.1, 2020 tax sale deferral bylaw. And this staff report was written by Mr. Svetlичny, but he is away, so Renee, our manager of finance.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was harder to say than it was in my head.
Yes. So you all have the report in front of you. The main reason it's being brought forward is due to the response of the COVID pandemic. The province has permitted municipalities to defer the 2020 tax sale for 1 year. The rationale being that delaying the tax sale provides property owners who may be struggling to pay their taxes 1 additional year to get their financial affairs in order. I'll just update the financial implications for you. That's the top of the 3rd page. When David had originally written the report for the agenda package, there was 20 delinquent properties. But since then, the tax collector has indicated that it's now 14. So 6 properties have paid their balance, bringing down the 116,073 down to 34,275. So as mentioned in the report, our tax collector is very good at tracking down these property owners and collecting payment. So again, this year, talking to her today, she anticipates that we'll be very close to bringing that number down to 0 as we approach the tax sale if we were to go forward with it. But because there really isn't a financial impact on the district by deferring it, that is the staff recommendation, is to extend the deadline for 1 year.
Thank you, Renee. Questions? Could I have someone bring forward the motion, please? Mr. Batten?
Shall I read it, Madam Mayor?
Please. You can read them all together, though.
That the tax sale deferral 2020 bylaw number 2020-017 be introduced and read at first, second, and third time. Number 2, that the tax sale deferral 2020 bylaw number 2020-017 be adopted.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Van Alphen. Any discussion? Councillor Barkwood.
Related to this, not exactly on point, but perhaps, well, we have the manager of our finance department here. She can just give us a rough estimate of how many people have taken advantage of the deferral of our taxes till September 30th. Last time it was a surprisingly large number.
The deferral of the property taxes until they sell their property?
No, the 2020 property taxes that we.
The due date
The
has
due
been
date.
extended, yes.
I don't have those statistics today.
Okay, but you might have some sort of vague feeling for it.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, and then the final item on this afternoon meeting is a second comment period from the public or media. Do we have anybody online or?
We do not have any.
Okay, thank you. So could I have someone bring forward a resolution to close the meeting to the public, please? Councillor Van Elfen and Councillor Holmes, all in favor? And I am going to request a brief 5-minute recess.
This is good to end, right?